Welcome back to the Bettors on 15th of February, Monday morning NBA betting analysis. As usual, we have a nice little 7-game slate, couple of interesting games. Basically, all of the games have some angles you can and should attack. We will go right through all the games. I did tweet out the weekly schedule. Thursday and Saturday will be the days off. There are almost, I think, no games on Thursday, like 2 or 3 games scheduled. So yeah, that's a day off for the whole league. And then I will take a Saturday off where there are only 6 games. If any comment or feedback regarding the show, please reach out on Twitter. And if you want to grab my plays, you can go to Patreon. I post write-ups on all games every morning at 4 a.m. Eastern. And you can tell my bets if you want. So we will get right into the games. First game on the board, Indiana Pacers hosting the Chicago Bulls. Interesting game, interesting line. If you go strictly by the maths, I think there is an edge on the Pacers here. I'm line on Pinnacle is 5.5 right now with Indiana as a 5.5 point favorite. I make it 6. A little over 6, so leaning towards 6.5. But the game opened up as 6.5 actually, and it got bet towards the Bulls. So Bulls upgraded Wendell Carter Jr. to questionable. He has been out for a month. Even if he plays, I think he will be on minutes limits. Laurie and Porter are still out, so a couple of injuries for the Bulls that has to be factored in. Overall, through the last 2 weeks, they have been pretty decent. They grade as a 12th best offense, 9th best defense, plus 4 point differential, plus 2 against the spread on average. But they've faced a pretty easy schedule, not just through the last 2 weeks, but through the whole season also. On the other hand, the Pacers grade as the 21st offense and the 10th best defense. Defensively, they did make a couple of key improvements. Rebounding did get a bit better, and overall, just decent defensive performances from them through the last few weeks. Bulls are on the road as dogs are 8-1 ATS. I never go into these like narrative things, but they are pretty plucky as road dogs. Basically, their offense is super efficient still now without Laurie, who has been one of their better players. And I'm still not trusting the Pacers defense that much, despite the nice numbers posted recently. The Bulls are, if you look at the big picture, the Bulls are kind of struggling recently. They are just 3-7 through the last 10 games, and they only covered those 3 games that they won. I think against the Pelicans, the Magic and the Knicks. I mean, those are not great teams. But even though that they are 3-7 in the last 10 games, they still grade close to the top 10 on both sides of the ball in the whole league. Rebounding edge goes to Chicago. The Pacers are 21st in offensive and 23rd in defensive rebounding. I just cannot lay this many points with a team that has bad rebounding, just a bad offense, 21st in points per possession. And they have a negative point differential through the season, the Pacers. So in my head, it's simply not a team I really want to lay this many points with. But my numbers like Indiana here, I show a small edge. I think if this gets to 5, I would maybe start thinking about the bet, making a bet, looking a bit more into the matchup. But at 5.5, I think the edge with the home team isn't big enough. But I'm just not a believer in either squad. Houston Rockets at the Washington Wizards. Game is off the board. The Wizards did have a game last night. They had an early game, won huge. Everyone played 33 minutes or less. Obviously they didn't post an injury report overnight, but the Stars have been playing pretty low minutes. And I would expect everyone to play here, but obviously if you want to make a wager on this game, you should wait for the injury report. Wizards are known to sit out guys, so this would be probably the first time if when everyone would play on the back-to-back. But as they are hosting John Wall, I would expect that they maybe want to play everyone. For Houston, Oladipo is out and Wood is out. Obviously, huge hit for the team. Since Wood has been out, their defense did get waivers. They weren't really competitive in the last, like 3 of the last 4 games. They have been blown out in a pretty ugly fashion. Overall, through the last 2 weeks, Houston has a minus 4.4 point differential, minus 8.1 against the spread. And they face the 26th most difficult overall schedule. It's not like the Wizards are any better. They grade as the worst offense in the league through the last 2 weeks and the 17th best defense with a minus 13 point differential, minus 10 against the spread on average, and they face the second easiest schedule in the whole league. So yeah, Wizards are just terrible. As I said yesterday, I mean, if you look at the starting lineup, it doesn't look as bad. I mean, as I said yesterday, I cannot really make a case for the Celtics. That was what I was saying yesterday, as this is like a super bottom on the market rating of the Wizards. So the market won't downgrade the Wizards any more than this. They are graded as one of the worst teams in the league. I think they are a bit better than that. They have the potential to be better than that if Beal and Westbrook start playing. I mean, Beal is playing amazing, but Westbrook was playing pretty bad basketball through the season. So yeah, the only good unit here in the Houston Washington game is the Houston defense. They grade as they allow the 4th lowest points per possession through the season, 5th lowest effective field goal percentage. They force the 8th most turnovers. The offenses are just pretty bad. Both teams have like bottom 5 offenses pretty consistently. Rebounding is kind of equal. Wizards with a slight rebounding edge, but the shot temp really favors the Rockets here. They are one of those teams again who either get to the rim or shoot a 3. They have the 4th highest percentage of shots coming 4 feet within the rim. Wizards allow the 7th highest field goal percentage there. And Houston has the 3rd highest 3-point rate in the league, and the Wizards allow the highest field goal percentage from shots from downtown. So I think the Rockets will be able to put up some points even without Oladipo and Wood. Defensively, they kind of look okay against what the Wizards are doing. Lots of mid-range jumpers. They are a borderline top 10 defense against these. And I think Cousins will draw a pretty decent matchup here. I mean, usually like the better guys just kill him. But I mean, the Wizards don't have anyone who would probably kill him here. So yeah, my line here would be Houston minus 2.5 with everyone in. Obviously, Wood and Oladipo out are a huge hit to the squad, but I think something around the pick'em or the Wizards' very slight favorites is okay. But if this gets out to like Wizards minus 2 or 3, I will 100% back the Rockets here. And this is pre-injury report. So if Penny is hanging a 2 or 3 and we can kind of expect someone to sit, I don't think Westbrook or Beal will sit, but we could see either or both sitting out here. Wizards are obviously tanking right now. And they are almost always sitting guys out. So yeah, it's Houston or bust for me. Even with the injuries, they are rested. I think this is a good matchup for him, and I cannot make the Wizards favorites over anyone, especially on a back-to-back. New York Knicks hosting the Atlanta Hawks. Hawks are laying 1.5 points on the road. Injuries. Hunter is out for the Hawks, and the Knicks will be without Mitchell Robinson. He fractured his hand, will be out for a while. I think these two guys, so Hunter and Robinson, are kind of equal when I'm factoring in the injuries. So like I'm not downgrading either team by a lot. My line is exactly Atlanta minus 1.5, what we see here. But I'm really leaning towards betting the Hawks. I didn't bet them yet, But if you look at how the last few weeks did shape up for both of these teams, I think this is a huge buy low spot for the Hawks. So Atlanta is, through the last 2 weeks, they rank as the 24th best offense and the 28th best defense. They have a minus 12 point differential on average and minus 4 against the closing spread. So they did get destroyed through the last 2 weeks. But if you look into who they played, it was all either like top teams or just borderline playoff teams. They played the Pacers, they played San Antonio, they played Dallas twice, they played the Raptors and the Utah Jazz and the Lakers. So that was the last 2 weeks. I mean, if you play teams like the Mavs, the Jazz, the Lakers, the Raptors, I think you are kind of expected to lose as a like league average team. I have the Hawks rated around league average, slightly below league average. On the other hand, the Knicks through this same period have a plus 6 point differential, plus 8 against the closing spread, but they played basically the teams who play zero defense. They played the Chicago Bulls twice, the Portland Trailblazers, the Houston Rockies, the Wizards, and Miami twice. Yeah, Miami isn't that bad, but I mean the Houston, Washington, Chicago, Portland 4 is just one of the worst defenses in the league. So yeah, same matchup was played in January, and the Hawks closed as 7 point favorites against New York, and now they are 1.5 point favorites, and it's exactly the same squad. I think that's a huge correction. Defensively, this sets up pretty well for New York, but I'm just going to play this game based on that. That I don't think the market should upgrade the Knicks that far and downgrade the Hawks that much, especially as the Hawks did face the second most difficult schedule of defenses in the league. And they have been still like a league average offense, but they are probably realistically better than league average. So yeah, I think it's a good buy low spot for the Hawks. Atlanta is drawing also the second most free throws in the game. Knicks are giving up like league average, but against the league average amount of fouls, you will be able to draw enough fouls. I'm going to wait for the injury report. There is no one on it besides Hunter for Atlanta. Rondo is on it, but I mean he's not a factor here really. But Young wasn't fully healthy in the last game. The training staff did something to his hand, but he only put up 9 shots, no 3-point attempts. He was super off. I don't think he's at 100% right now, but I will wait for the first injury report, make sure he isn't tagged. Like, even if he's tagged just probable, I will just skip the game. But if he isn't on the report, I will bet the Hawks here. I have no number edge if I strictly go by my lines, but I think the Hawks are better than this, better what we've seen from them, and yeah, the Knicks have been slightly overperforming. Utah Jazz hosting the Philly Sixers, huge game. For the Jazz, Conley is out, but they didn't upload an injury report yet. We just know that Conley won't play here, but obviously the injury report has to be checked here. Embiid is questionable for Philly. He was questionable in the last game with the same injury, played through it. I'm expecting him to play here. They know that this is a huge game against the team that has been the best team so far in the season. I think Embiid will go. My line with Embiid in is Jazz minus 4.5. If he is out, Jazz minus 8.5 ish. So yeah, he's worth around 4 points. But what we see at 6.5 is basically a middle of the ground. We don't know if he's in or out line, so I don't think there is an opportunity to bet into it. I think the line is perfect. I would make it 6.5 right now until we know of Embiid's status. Matchup is amazing for Philly. I'm always saying if you don't give up the free throws to Philly and you out rebound them, you will beat them. Philly is drawing the most free throws in the league. Utah is allowing the least in the whole league. Utah ranks third in offensive, second in defensive rebounding, so they should probably be able to out rebound Philly. This is also the last game of a 4-game West Coast road trip for the Sixers, so the spot isn't too great. Jazz are on a longer home streak. So yeah, with the rebounding, the spot, how everything matches up, I think Utah is a decent look. I'm willing to pay a fair price here if we know if in time that Embiid is going to play or not. To be honest, I don't care. I would probably lay the 4.5 if Embiid is in fact in. Um, Philly is putting up the third most mid-range jumpers in the league. Utah allows the lowest field goal percentage in the whole league against that. I don't think their game will work here. Jazz are putting up the most three-pointers in the league. 45% of all their shots come from downtown. They have the fourth best rate on these, and Philly is just the 22nd best defense against three-pointers. So yeah, matchup is great for the Jazz. Spot is great for the Jazz. We have to wait for the status of Embiid. I think 4.5 is a fair line with the Jazz. If he is in, I would make it 8.5 if he sits. LA Clippers, Miami Heat, another game where I have a lean. So the Clippers are at home. They did play last night, so it's a home back-to-back for them. They got an easy W over Cleveland. Everyone played 32 minutes or less, so it wasn't like a huge load. Paul George is out. That's 100%. He will be out for at least this week, but probably next week also. He has some issue in his toe. Huge downgrade. He was the best player on this team when he was active. I like Kawhi, but he wasn't the best player on this team. George is averaging 24 points, 6 rebounds, 5 assists. He was shooting 48% from downtown, which is pretty amazing. He's more of a deep threat than Kawhi. Kawhi is more of the mid-range jumper guy. Yeah, so since Paul George has been out, Clippers dropped a few games against teams that they should probably normally pretty easily beat. Like they lost to the Celtics and to the Kings. Obviously, they're still beating the shitty teams, but I think the Heat are a step above that. And yeah, Clippers just faced the 28th most difficult schedule in the league, and their defense grades as league average. So they are just 15th in points per possession, 17th in effective field goal percentage, stuff like that, and they face the third easiest schedule in the whole league. On the other end, Miami faced the 16th schedule. They are now kind of fully healthy. Dragic is still out, but I don't think he will be really back and healthy this year. Shots are still not really falling for the Heat, but they are finally starting to win games. And I think the matchup is decent for them. They grade as a top 10 defense against threes and mid-range shots. That's what basically you have to be able to defend against the Clippers. The Clippers attack the paint at the third lowest rate in the whole league. So yeah, if you can just limit the high percentage looks on the long shots, you should be all right. Heat put up the fourth most threes in the league. Clippers bottom 10ish 3-point defense. So I think that's a decent look. And overall, if you look at the Miami defense, they rate 8th in points per possessions, 11th in effective field goal percentage. They force the 6th most turnovers. So defensively, the Heat are by far the better team here. Through the last 2 weeks, they only allowed 107 points per 100 possessions. That's the 5th best in the league. But through the season, they are top 10 also. So yeah, solid defense, solid matchup, fully healthy. And the thing is, we don't really know if Kawhi will play or not, as he didn't play last night. I would probably expect him to play. That was more likely just a load management thing on the first game of the back-to-back set. But yeah, so the soft books that have lines up are having a line of Clippers -5.5. I think that's off. I'm way lower than that. I think Clippers -3.5 to 4 would be a better line here, especially as we don't know if Leonard will play or not. We know that Paul George is out. Obviously, it was a low load for the team, but still, it's a back-to-back for them. I kind of like the Heat based on the matchup, and I didn't really like what I see from the Clippers with Paul George out. we see that if any of the two stars are out, they just kind of fall apart. They need both guys on the floor to just stretch it and produce offensively. They just don't have too much talent on the offensive end if both guys are out. So yeah, if we can just blindly bet into the game right now, I would sit on the Heat plus 5.5. To be honest, if Kawhi is out, that's probably the best bet you can make this year. But yeah, if he's in, I think that's too many points given how these two match up, and obviously Heat playing fully rested, mostly healthy, defensively getting way better recently. I'm a huge fan of the Clippers, but the defense is still grading just league average or worse against the super easy overall schedule. So yeah, I think some value on the Heat here. Golden State Warriors hosting the Cleveland Cavaliers. Golden State laying 8 points at home. I mean, yeah, another one of these, the situation what we had in the Pacers game, that my numbers like the Warriors, but I do not like the Warriors, despite this being a great matchup. I mean, if you overall look at the big picture, they are still a team with a negative point differential that's laying almost 10 points here. Against a team that has some, I mean, that has some stuff going for them. I'm always saying the Cavs force like top 5 most turnovers. They have decent rebounding, and I think they have been playing way under their talent level recently. So it's a back-to-back for the Cavs. We travel. Sexton played 35 minutes. Everyone else played 30 or less. They have faced like a murderer's row through the last 2 weeks. They won 1 game and lost 7, but they faced the Bucks twice. They played the Nuggets, the Clippers, the Suns. So yeah, I mean, they have a minus 19 point differential through this stretch. But I don't think that's unexpected if you look at who they played, and I think they are better than what we've seen recently, and not just these last 2 weeks, but they had a super tough schedule through the whole of the last month. While on the other end, Golden State, I mean, they went 3-4 through the last 2 weeks. They played like Orlando, Detroit, Minnesota. So I mean, the wins weren't really unexpected. They just do what they do. They're great as league average ish on both sides of the ball, really. Both squads faced a pretty difficult schedule. Cleveland faced the third toughest schedule through the whole season, and the Golden State Warriors the fourth toughest. Overall, the Golden State offense is very similar in my rankings in the major stats to Cleveland. So I don't think there is a mismatch really there. But on the other end, Golden State defense allows the 10th lowest points per possession, 4th lowest effective field goal percentage, versus a Cleveland offense that raised 30th in points per possessions and 27th in effective field goal percentage. So yeah, Golden State also a very decent defense around the rim. Cleveland attacks the rim at the second highest rate, but they only have the 30th efficiency. So if you are doing something that's not really working, but you keep doing that, then you are going to fail. And that is exactly what we see from Cleveland. So if you have the lowest efficiency in the paint, then why don't you just try to shoot like more threes or something? But yeah, so Golden State decent defense in the paint. Cleveland also put up third most mid-range jumpers in the league, and the Golden State allows the third lowest field goal percentage on them. So anything Cleveland is doing frequently, the Golden State defense should have an answer for that. So this is a great matchup overall, I think, for the Golden State defense, but I really cannot lay this many points with a team that has like a negative point differential. And I'm looking to back Cleveland, to be honest. This isn't a spot in my opinion, but they are a better team than what we've seen recently, and they will be able to beat some worse teams. But I think this is a bad matchup, and my line here would be minus 10 on the Golden State Warriors, which is a bit rough in my opinion. I didn't bet the game. I'm not really looking to bet Golden State, to be honest. I think these teams are a bit closer than what we've seen recently, and yeah, I think there is no value on either side here. but I think there is value on the final game for today. The Sacramento Kings hosting the Brooklyn Nets. Um, I like Brooklyn here. They don't have KD. KD will be out for at least a few more games. But they are fully rested. Everyone else is in. DeAndre Jordan is probable. I'm expecting him to play. Hopefully, he will do. As for the Kings, they are on a back-to-back. They played the home back-to-back last night. They lost to Memphis by 10 or something. Buddy Hield played 32 minutes. Everyone else played like 30 or less, so load wasn't like huge. Kings rate as the worst defense in the league through the season, but through the last 2 weeks they grade as the 16th best defense and 17th best offense. So yeah, they are league average through the last 2 weeks, but this is an improvement for them. If you remember how the Kings did start the season, they have been playing some terrible basketball through the last first 2-3 weeks. They have been like bottom 5 in everything. Now they are, I think, where they belong, so like slightly under league average. This 16, 17 spot, I think that's completely fair. They still have a -2 point differential. Brooklyn, on the other end, they grade as the fourth best offense through the season. KD was out for a few games now, so through the last 2 weeks, they just grade as the eighth best offense in the league, but they still put up 120 points per 100 possessions. Still the best offensive efficiency in the league, fourth most points per possession through the season, as I said. The Kings allow the highest points per possessions in the league and the eighth highest effective field goal percentage. Nets, another one of these teams that needs to draw the extra free throws to be competitive and to be able to beat you. They draw the third most in the league, and the Kings allow the eighth most defensively. Also, Nets are top 3 offense from downtown, both in frequency and efficiency. Sacramento Kings are the 7th worst defense in the league when it comes to defending 3-pointers. So yeah, I think the matchup is decent for the Nets, even without KD. If KD was in, I would make this like Brooklyn -7.5. So yeah, I think given the matchup, I'm not downgrading the Nets as much as the market does right now. I think the 4.5 is what we see right now is a decent look. You can grab 4s also. I think Betfair had a 4. Yeah, the Betfair still has a 4 on the Nets right now. I think that's a hugely plus EV bet, as we don't know who will play for the Kings. So they did play last night. Bagley was out. Obviously, he's a huge piece there. You would have to slightly downgrade the Kings if he sits. And Fox was playing, but he was returning from an injury. I'm not 100% sure they will play him in a back-to-back, coming back from an injury. So he's also another question mark. We've seen the Kings sit out forwards also in back-to-back sets. So with the Bagley probably not playing and Fox maybe not playing, and you are getting a line that's plus EV even if they play, I think the Nets are a look here. I very rarely bet them. You don't normally find value on Brooklyn. They are a pretty public team, but I think this is the right matchup, right spot, and yeah, the Kings have been, I think, playing fairly decent basketball recently, and that means that it's time to start fading them a bit. All right, summing it up, a lot of looks on this small slate. So yeah, I show a number edge on the Pacers. I would bet at 5 or better. I don't think we'll get there. Many people just bet straight based on their models, and I think most models will make this 6 or more. Houston is a side I'm looking at if the Wizards are sitting anyone, to be honest. I still cannot make the Wizards home favorites if on a back-to-back, if just one of the guys, maybe like even if Westbrook sits. I like the Hawks, as I said. The same matchup closed -7 against the Knicks a few weeks ago, and they are now -1.5 after facing a super tough schedule. Hawks are buzzed there. Utah Jazz, spread is 6.5 with Embiid questionable. If he is in, I think 4.5 is the fair line. If he's out, 8.5. So that's something you should look at. I like the Miami Heat at 5.5. What we see right now, DraftKings has a 6. That's an insane line, I think. Kawhi didn't play last night. I think he will play, but the Clippers don't have Paul George. They are waivers without him. I don't think they can lay this many points on a back-to-back. And then I like the Brooklyn Nets at 4. At 4.5, I think it's a coin flip at worst. If everyone is in for the Kings, but I would probably still bet that just based on the possibility that guys will sit. I think Bagley will sit at least, and I think the matchup is right for the Brooklyn Nets. So this is it for today. If you want to grab my plays, you can go to patreon.com/thebarrelzone and support the podcast. I will be back tomorrow at the same time. We have a couple of amazing games tomorrow. Nets are playing the Suns on a back-to-back. Denver Nuggets in Boston. So yeah, great games to break down. Back same time tomorrow. Have a great day and good luck with your wagers.